gift to all of you is my channel may round joy. Today, I'm going to explain Blue Lock Season 3
from Rin. Reichi says that it looks like his playmaker betrayed him, and Hiyori says that Rin stopped moving, and that this is their chance with the two of them creating a double press. We can see that Rin isn't pleased at all with it. Even Karasu can't believe it and tells them to go for the second ball, but that won't work as the player who's finally back on the pitch and ready to strike says that it's time to counter. It's of course Corona who says that the ball is his, as he easily steals it from Zantetsu. As Corona has gotten the ball, he looks right away for Isagi, whom he finds just above him. They make eye contact, and Corona says that Isagi is his target. However, as he passes the ball, something unexpected happens, as the ball doesn't reach Isagi, but instead, Kaiser comes in and steals it right in front of their eyes. As Kaiser's got the ball and is looking more determined than ever, he asks Ness if he is ready, and Ness, who is behind him, says that he is, while trying his best to stay on speed. After that, we get into a quick flashback into the German Stratum training field 10 days prior. There we see Kaiser and Ness asks what the Magnus effect is. Kaiser explains that when a player kicks the ball, the air will naturally exert an equal and opposite force back onto the ball. Now this part might get a bit confusing, so I will first explain the 3 different steps, and then read what they are saying. Feel free to pause and be ready if you aren't able to follow. Anyway, the first step is the mechanism behind a spinning ball, which explains that the shot's power will increase if the airflow and the ball's spin face the same direction. Conversely, the shot's power will decrease if the airflow and the ball's spin face opposite directions. After that, we got to the second step, which is the creation of the aerodynamic force. This means that as the ball spins, some areas experience lower air pressure than others, which creates a pressure gradient. And the third step is the result, which is the Magnus effect. As a result, the ball will naturally curve towards the side with lower air pressure. After that, Kaiser says that the reason why a spinning ball will curve, dip, or rise is because of the difference in air resistance between different sides of the ball. Ness, who isn't familiar with this concept, says that it's pretty cool. Kaiser then explains that, up until now, he prioritized shooting straight while increasing the Kaiser's impact's velocity and power. He puts the ball down on the ground intensely, as he says that his new weapon is where he put some spin on the Kaiser impact and intentionally made it curve. However, for this to work, he needs to determine exactly where to strike the ball and raise its accuracy to a level on par with the Kaiser impact by using the air valve as the central reference point. He looks at the ball and determines that the meet point is on the lower left side. After that, he looks at it before shooting the ball. Firstly, it looks like a mishit, and Ness is confused and mostly shocked, but then he realizes something as the ball starts to curve. Lastly, he goes into the goal, which is honestly a really impressive goal, and Kaiser did that without sacrificing its speed or power, and managed to add a devilish spin to his Kaiser impact. Ness has never seen something like this before and is ecstatic for Kaiser, as he calls it amazing, and says that this means that he can freely control the direction of the Kaiser impact and no one will be able to stop it. Kaiser breathes for a second before agreeing, but admits that currently it only works if the ball is stationary, which means that it won't fully work during the game, as the ball will be moving around constantly. Anyway, after that, we get into the game again, and we see Kaiser and Ness passing around the ball. Kaiser compliments Ness's passes and says that currently they are raising the difficulty level astronomically. As they are going at it, Kaiser admits that he hasn't yet succeeded when the ball is still moving. However, that doesn't matter to Ness, as he puts his full trust in Kaiser and says that they will complete Kaiser's weapon right here and now. As he passes over the ball, Kaiser gets the ball and says that it's 3 defenders in front and 2 more defenders right next to me, also saying that he is a bit off balance, but that the conditions are now all set. He looks over to the goal and spots the perfect shooting point. Even though the ball is still moving, he says that it doesn't matter and that this is the thing he needs to overcome, an impossible challenge, and with that, he shoots the ball with his new weapon, which he calls the Kaiser Impact Magnus. He shoots the ball over all of the PXG players. However, they are confused as it looks like it's going to miss. Reichi screams out and asks where it's going, and Nanase is wondering if he actually mishit it. Kaiser's look is intense as he tells the ball to curve. He follows the ball closely as it approaches the goal, but sadly, it's far from the goal and goes out. Ness is shocked to his core and says that it didn't have enough spin on it. Even Isagi can't believe his eyes, as he wonders if Kaiser mishit it, but there's no way that it could be the case, saying that he has never seen him like this. Kaiser falls to the floor from the goal, but quickly gets up on his feet and starts to actually scream his heart out. His scream is so loud that it starts to echo, and everyone in the stadium is able to hear his frustration. Isagi is looking at him while his pieces fly around and says that Kaiser's unraveling. And then for the final panel, we see Kaiser's eyes, which look so dead and lost, and also his teeth, which he is scratching against each other, showing off his incredible frustration. After that, we get right into a flashback, and we can see someone who can assume to be Kaiser's father. He has some kind of beer in his hand, while his other hand is wrapped around Kaiser's face. And we then see Kaiser, who can't do anything but cry as he looks at his abusive father. After that, we get a deeper explanation of what has happened, as the text says that Kaiser's childhood was something no child should want or ever have to endure. Kaiser's father was a small-time theater director, and his mother was his father's lead actress. Whether the romance between them just fizzled out, or the unintended consequences of one lustful and passionate night. Anyway, shortly after giving birth to Kaiser, the mother abandoned Kaiser and the father, and not long after, the mother became a star actress. On the other hand, cast into the shadow of the mother's success, the broken-hearted father entered an endless spiral of self-destruction, with an alcoholic gambling addict father beating the crap out of Kaiser every chance he got. That was the unfortunate reality of how Kaiser grew up, and it wasn't as if Kaiser could just go somewhere else as he had no other place to turn to. After that, we see that the father had ordered Kaiser to work. However, Kaiser is just a kid at this time, so what kind of work could he have? Well, he was ordered to steal different things. Kaiser made his way to the neighborhood store and stole everything from food to everyday appliances. If he managed to fail to bring anything, the father would yell at him and beat him up, and because of that, Kaiser quickly became an expert thief. However, when he came home with the things he had stolen that day, there was a problem. His father told him that he had forgotten the milk, which made him extremely angry as his fat ass was too lazy to go and get it himself. So he kicked Kaiser right in the face, telling Kaiser that if he forgets the milk one more time, then he will seriously kill him. So even if Kaiser did his job, the daily beatings and abuse wouldn't stop. Far from it. Michael was the name that the mother gave Kaiser shortly before she left. However, that name was never uttered by the father, not even once, as it was evident that the father deeply resented and hated the mother. Yet the father had treasured a rose the mother had once given him, and Kaiser couldn't believe why his father had kept it this time, as it was something from someone who had ruined his father's life. After that, Kaiser's father starts to choke Kaiser. He says that he is a piece of garbage and that the woman he loves discarded him. However, while still choking Kaiser, he says that he is below that and that he is the scum that he and Kaiser's mother had spawned, telling Kaiser that he is incompetent, worthless, and a piece of worthless trash. He says all of that while looking into Kaiser's eyes, which are filled with fear as he doesn't know how this is going to end. And Kaiser had to endure things like this multiple times every day. After that, we see him walking in the street, saying that one beautiful day he will leave this place, and as Kaiser got older, his desire only grew stronger. Among the things he stole, the boy secretly sold off the more valuable items and kept the money for himself, and for someone like him, it was his first moment of defiance. After that, we got to Kaiser's 12th birthday, and he decided to buy something for himself, which was probably when his life actually started. He thought about buying food, but threw that idea to the side as he wanted something that would last. And honestly, he didn't care what he bought, but after being abused and mistreated for so long, he wanted to find something which could give him a will to live for. And that's when he came across it. He was looking at a brand new football in the window, and knew that it was what he wanted. He bought it, and went to a nearby park and sat on the ground. He said that when he throws the ball, it flies away, but when it hits the wall, it bounces back to Kaiser. Even when he gets angry and punches it, or when he kicks it, with all his strength, it never cries or gets angry at him. And when things got rough with his father, his football was always silently by his side. When his father was done with him, he found somewhere to rest and put the football close to his chest, saying that both him and the ball were pieces of trash. Kaiser started to shed a tear as he dreamed of getting out of this hellish nightmare he was in. However, one day, some thieves robbed the neighborhood jewelry store, and among the captured thieves, one of them gave the police the name Michael Kaiser as an accomplice, as Kaiser and the thief knew each other. However, the saddest part is that Kaiser was completely innocent, and that it was a completely unfounded accusation that framed Kaiser for it. His father hears this and takes a beer bottle and smashes it at Kaiser, which could have ended extremely badly. His father asks him how many times he's told him not to steal things that aren't his and to get lost and die, and that just made my blood boil, that he just straight up lied about everything. Kaiser can't believe his ears and thinks that his father really isn't one to talk, and he calls him a deadbeat. After that, the police found a safe where Kaiser slept that had tons of money in it. His father is only getting angrier and asks Kaiser to explain before trying to hit him again. But lucky for him, the policeman stops him. His father screams at him that he wasn't allowed to hide money from him, but says that now that Kaiser is going to jail, the money is his. Kaiser sees this as he is getting handcuffed and is a bit irritated, but there's nothing he can do about it. He says that he could recoup that cash some other time and that he can just start over. As Kaiser is getting escorted out, another policeman comes to his father with Kaiser's football and says that it was lying near his bed. His father is confused but gets angry as he tells Kaiser that he better not have stashed some money inside this football. He takes his broken beer bottle and is about to destroy the football, but at this point, Kaiser isn't having any more of his shit. He breaks free from the policeman and jumps high up in the air. His eyes have a sense of anger that can't be explained in them, and with that, Kaiser finally gives back to his father by kicking him right in the face, which makes him bleed and fall right to the ground. Kaiser says that at that moment, something snapped for him, or rather, it was as though something new got born to life. The policemen see this and try to get Kaiser to stop, but Kaiser can't think clearly anymore. He has tears in his eyes as he sees the ball bouncing on the floor and manages to actually make a volley right into the policeman's face. Anyway, one of the policemen takes out a gun, still on a child by the way, but that doesn't matter to Kaiser as he also gives him a kick right to his face. The thing that got born inside Kaiser was nothing else but an identity, which he hadn't had before. And just like that, Kaiser, while screaming his heart out, had just taken down 3 policemen while being handcuffed. However, he sadly got caught in the end, and as he was in his cell, and as the night came closer, someone came to visit him. He has a serious aura around him as he asks Kaiser if he loves football. Kaiser is confused by this question, but he tells Kaiser that if he does, then he can get Kaiser out of there. The man was revealed to be Ray Dark, who is none other than the World Football Association agent, or scout, who's come to probably take Kaiser under his wing. After that, we see Kaiser, who is getting neck tattooed with his infamous blue rose. In the background, you can hear someone talking to him. He says that he heard that Kaiser took down 7 police officers with just a soccer ball. Kaiser tries to defend himself and says that he just ended the fight that they started. We then see that it's Ray Dark whom he is talking to, and he compliments Kaiser and says that it's good, explaining that he's traveling the world to scout untapped lumps of soccer talent like Kaiser himself. After that, we get to the Bastard Munchen training clubhouse, where Ray and Kaiser stand side by side, and Ray tells Kaiser that from now on, this is where he belongs, but that he has to pass the pro exam first. However, Kaiser thinks that it won't be a problem, as he is really willing to do whatever it takes to escape from his house. Anyway, he goes into the clubhouse and is greeted very welcomingly by everyone there, who even says that they have heard lots about him. Kaiser takes a quick glance at them and says that these are people who, unlike himself, people wanted them to be born. Anyway, they decided to eat together, and they even complimented Kaiser's blue rose tattoo. However, as he looks down at his food, something strange happens. He feels kindness, but Kaiser hasn't felt that before and doesn't know how to receive goodwill, so he just throws his food onto one of the players' faces, who rightfully gets angry at him and asks him what he is doing. But Kaiser explains that it's way easier for him to live as the target of malice, and with that, he starts to go wild at them while they try to de-escalate the fight. However, in the end, soccer is a sport played by 11 players, and guys who are hated don't get passes. We can clearly see that as they are playing, but Kaiser isn't getting the ball. He knows that if he's going to succeed in this environment, he needs the ability to fight on his own. He needs his own overwhelming weapon, and because of that, he starts to train like crazy as he tries to find something that would clearly prove his existence to everyone. He needed to make an impact. This is really cool to hear, as we know that his weapon is called Kaiser Impact. He says that rather than a conspiracy of goodwill, he needs a dog who will submit to his malice. After that, we got to the Bastard Munchen tryouts, and we saw Ness, who got run over by 2 of the Bastard Munchen players. However, Kaiser doesn't care about that and just says that he seems like a good test subject. He looks at Ness, who's lying on the floor, and says that his dribbling, passing imagination, and all of his abilities are above criticism. And if that wasn't good enough, then he is also isolated, which made Kaiser really take his eyes on him. After that, we see Kaiser asking Ness if he believes in the impossible. However, he didn't want to help Ness to be nice, but instead knew that this was the perfect time to erode his heart. And with that, Kaiser gradually started to understand his disposition. He scored more and more goals, and the other players started to fear him. But Kaiser only said that the feeling he got felt so good. By using victory to hurt people and warp them, he's basically using malice to prove his existence. It then says that the being known as Michael Kaiser took great pleasure in eroding others' hearts and living on inside them as a scar. After that, we also see Kaiser undergoing some kind of transformation, while the players he's beaten are seen crying on the ground. However, after that, things only got worse, as destroying people's dreams and rewriting their sense of values become a symbol of impossibility that taught them true despair. And because of that, Kaiser believed that it was the ultimate destination of the impulse that gave its first cry at that moment. By doing so, he felt that bit by bit, and every time he harvested new despair, he became a little more human, which sounds so fucked, but also so incredibly cool. At the same time as he was doing all of that, he would picture his father, whom he'd hated so much, understanding that he hurt Kaiser just so he could maintain the feeling that he was alive. This was why, instead of saying thank you, he instead hit Kaiser every day, and instead of saying I love you, he instead called Kaiser a piece of shit. After that, Kaiser realized that he was doing the same thing as his shitty father did, except that he was trying to do it to the world's soccer players, and that's why he started dreaming about becoming the world's best. But quickly, let's just look at this panel. Kaiser looks so incredibly cool right here, with his flowers all around his body, and his insanely cool tattoo, which goes down to his arm. Anyway, after that, we get into the match again, and we see that PXG is starting with the ball, the goalkeeper kicks out the ball, and the game is on again. The ball is going toward Nanas and Ness, but Ness manages to just in time block Nanas and jump up to head the ball, and the ball lands on Kaiser, who's already in a heated battle with Karasu. Ness told Kaiser to go and get the next goal, and with that, Kaiser was locked in. He says that he won't miss again, but that he's currently 35 meters from the goal and is too far to shoot. However, he knows that if he waits for 5 more meters, he will stop the ball and be in the perfect situation. However, just then, something unexpected happens, as both Isagi and Rin go up towards Kaiser. Rin calls Kaiser tepid, and Isagi is wondering why the hell he is stopping, screaming at him to continue going and that Rin is coming. However, Rin says that it's already too late, and then all of them clash with each other and the ball goes high up into the sky and Kaiser loses his attack. Nanas compliments Rin's defenses, and Raichi tells them to grab the second ball. Kaiser falls down onto the ground and says that everything he gained by winning is now slowly but surely being stolen and destroyed. As Kaiser is beginning to get back on his feet, Isagi starts talking to him, which shocks Kaiser a bit. Isagi has his back towards him and asks Kaiser if he finally gets it, telling him that this team isn't his anymore. And with that, he looks back right at Kaiser, and Isagi's eyes are burning while he tells Kaiser to kneel to him and calls him a shitty clown. Kaiser's eyes begin to melt by that, but we then see Noah from the sidelines, who is looking at this extremely closely and says that this is it, Kaiser, and that it's finally time for him to fight with his ego. Isagi begins to run away, but Kaiser is still down on the ground and is beginning to lose it as he says that evolution only happens in adversity, while looking like he is about to kill someone soon, probably Isagi, if I'm honest. The commentators say that the ball is evenly matched. However, the one dominating the aerial battle is none other than Kunigami Rensuke. Kunigami heads the ball right over Shidu's head and gives it to Corona. After that, we get to Isagi, who, while running, says that he can crush him and even destroy him now. He's determined that he can take that step further and devour the Emperor, as the team is almost all his, and Kaiser is thrown off balance. As we know due to his latest miss and his awful play against Isagi and Rin, Isagi thinks back to when he told Kaiser to kneel before him and even called him a clown. He says that if he hurls such abuse at Kaiser now, he won't be able to escape his obsession with Isagi, which will then in turn make his movements predictable. And if Isagi is able to take advantage of that and aim for the back with Corona and Hiroi, he can then win with 100% certainty. After that, we get this amazing panel with Kaiser still on the floor while Isagi is running far ahead of him into what looks like an explosion or a black hole. As he is running, he asks Kaiser if he doesn't want to devour him, and that Kaiser always thinks of himself as the main character. After that, we switch sides as we instead go over to Kaiser, who says that he recognizes this feeling he is getting from Isagi. He thinks that every day his father used to put Kaiser through that, all that same sense of irrationality and suffocating constraint. However, after that, Kaiser finally gets up on his feet and says fuck it, saying that he has already surpassed his father a long time ago. However, because of Isagi, Kaiser's very existence is shaking again, and if he doesn't win and doesn't surpass him, then everything that Kaiser has worked so hard for will just disappear. Suddenly, Ness comes out of nowhere and screams Kaiser's name and tells him to calm down. He says that they have already achieved enough results and that Kaiser has already scored so many goals up until the previous match, not to mention that Kaiser already has his offer from Real Madrid. and because of that, Ness advises him not to make any reckless plays and instead wait for a chance where he can fire off his new weapon. Kaiser looks back with some sort of scared but also dissuaded facial expression, as Ness, with big eyes, says that he is here for Kaiser. However, Kaiser couldn't care less about that if he asked if Ness was out of his mind and said that if he lost now, then everything would disappear. Ness's happy facial expression quickly turns to a sad one as Kaiser says that the whole world is watching this match and that a defeat here isn't just a simple loss, but that the offer from the Real Madrid and his throne in this team, all the glory he's gained through football, will be crushed by Isagi in an instant, saying that if he loses now, then he will return to the time when he wasn't even considered human. Just then, he sees his chances and tries to slide tackle Isagi to get the ball back. However, Isagi avoids it easily. Kaiser quickly starts to wonder if he is afraid of losing, and if the reality of the current him and returning to the worthless thing he was before might scare him. Kaiser's life wasn't even born out of desire. Isagi is still above him, but now he's got a menacing and intense aura around him, as it looks like Isagi is almost looking down at Kaiser. While this is still going on, Kaiser says that having gained status, honor, and money made him feel like he had become a human desired by others. But now suddenly, he is afraid of losing what he's paid for, calling it the pitfall of an achiever's heart. Kaiser's eyes start to twitch as he looks at Isagi in front of him. Ness tries to help him and screams his name, but Kaiser is too far gone and can't hear him. Kaiser starts to get up and thinks that he's now fighting to take, but before he knows it, he has started fighting to protect himself by only choosing easy opponents that he could win against. He did that to be able to settle in places where he could remain king without getting hurt and living indefinitely without injury, saying that there's nothing wrong with that as he fought for that position and that there was no need to do anything after that, which could potentially shake the proof of his existence. But even then, the place that Kaiser is currently in doesn't have the best view in the world yet. He says that as he sees Noel Noah standing beside Isagi in front of a throne, they are looking down at Kaiser's petty little throne, which he has been sitting comfortably on. Kaiser finally realizes it and says that fighting to protect his current glory won't allow him to prove his existence any further. He finally gives in by saying that he has no choice but to slowly close his eyes. However, it seems like that was just to throw us off, as we can see his arm down on the grass as it begins to evaporate into flower leaves. As that is going on, he says that he has to throw it all away, the glory, the title, and even his own pride. Everything that made him feel like he had become human, he has to now strip it all away in order to reset totally and become zero. Kaiser is now covered in total darkness as he thinks about this sensation and if this is something that he truly wants. And he starts to ask himself about the dignity that he truly desires, thinking that it isn't a life that he desired, but what he has found and wanted is his own ego, or his own zero as he calls it. We get back to when he was looking at his football for the first time, and it made his eyes glow up. After that, we see when he is sad and sleeps with the ball close to his heart. Behind it, we can see his hand, and in the next panel, he completely destroyed that picture. He's looking more furious than ever, as he says "you shitheads" and is ready to go at it again, and it even makes Isagi turn around in shock. And then we see Isagi, who still has his eyes looking at Kaiser. He has a bit of a shocked facial expression as he says that Kaiser's movements changed all of a sudden, and then we see Kaiser, who is looking insane as he's hunting for Isagi. Suddenly, Corona, who is next to Isagi, tells him to speed it up. He tells Isagi to keep on attacking and for them to combo. Isagi is on board with the plan, but suddenly someone says, "Right now," and a hand comes across Isagi's face. It's Karasu who manages to get his hand around Isagi's body, making it harder for him to move. Karasu tells Isagi that right now he is the game's protagonist. He continues and says that if they let Isagi get in range, then he will hit them with his crazy shot again. But Karasu is here to stop that from happening, as he is set on crushing Isagi before he gets that chance. However, Isagi is so cold, so he doesn't even care for Karasu, as he tells him that he would like to see him try and calls him a baby crow, which goes so incredibly hard. Isagi thinks that he saw PXG shifting all of their defensive focus towards him from a mile away. Even though Karasu has him on lockdown, he still manages to get off a pass to Corona, or Planet as he calls him. Corona gets the ball and starts to just say ad-libs for no reason, which I think was quite funny. He says interlock connect as he passes the ball away. It looks like the ball is heading for Isagi, but he jumps over it in the last second and lets the ball continue its path. After that, Isagi tells Hiyori to show him the best production that he can come up with. The ball is going closer to Hiyori, and his facial expression totally changes as he's ecstatic that he gets to play with both Corona and Isagi, who both have such great ideas. However, just as the ball is supposed to meet up with Hiyori, something unexpected happens, as instead of Hiyori getting the ball, Kaiser comes in his way, blocks off the pass, and grabs it himself. Kaiser now has the ball and is looking cooler than ever, and he also has flower leaves flowing behind him. Isagi is watching from afar and is frustrated. Isagi says that, as he suspected, Kaiser changed his attaching patterns, and instead of being overly fixated on Isagi and forcibly pressing him, he's instead scanning the entire field and predicting their combination attacks, calling it a calm meta-press. After that, we see Raichi, who's super pissed that Kaiser once again stole the ball from his teammate, but then we have Ness over here, who's praising Kaiser over and over again and telling him to try again. We see Kaiser looking over and then passing the ball. However, the pass isn't to Ness this time, but surprisingly to Raichi, who's just as shocked as we are. After that, Kaiser starts sprinting on the pitch all that he can. While Raichi is confused and wonders what the hell it is that Kaiser is planning, we also see Ness, who honestly looks crushed that Kaiser didn't pass to him. It definitely destroyed his heart. But Kaiser says that if he's going to climb even higher, then he has to discard everything that defines who he currently is. He needs to get rid of all of it to then reset himself to when he was a simple nobody and to the time when all he wanted was to live, back to when he was just zero. After that, we see Kaiser, who tells Reichi to please pass him. Reichi puts a smug face on himself as he passes. Reichi says that it looks like Kaiser has some redeeming qualities after all, and screams at him to score with his assist. Igarashi on the bench wonders why the hell Raichi is passing Kaiser, but personally, I don't think you get a say if you're not even good enough to play in the game. After that, we get into Isagi's brain as he thinks that now that he's currently the game's protagonist, their best option is to attack through Kaiser since he doesn't need Isagi to score, which annoys him. But after that, we see that he gets all fired up as he looks really menacing and says that he can't believe that Kaiser would actually throw away his pride, still calling him a shitty clown. But suddenly, another one enters the picture, and it's Rin who comes and tells Kaiser that he was too forceful, telling him that it's over as he gracefully steals the ball from Kaiser, who falls to the ground. Reichi is furious and asks Kaiser how he dares to waste his beautiful assist and screams at him to get up and get back on it. Kaiser takes his around his mouth and says that it's getting interesting, explaining that this isn't some simple impulsive train of thought, but that this only occurs to those greedy enough to achieve even further success. He calls it the turning point of one's identity, while simultaneously being destroyed and rebuilt. He says that while chasing after Rin. However, he continues and says that he shouldn't waste his energy playing defensively, and instead keep searching for ways that will spur him to greater heights, admitting that the reason that he is able to get into this mindset is because of Isagi and the hardship that he gave Kaiser. After that, we see that Reichi and Corona teamed up to take the ball from Rin. Karasu is watching from the sidelines, wondering what is going on, saying that on top of Shiodu getting shut down and Isagi suddenly evolving exponentially, even Kaiser's beginning to move unpredictably, and ending it by saying that he can't manage to get a read on the team. After that, we get into Hiyori's brain as he thinks that a formation where Isagi operates as the main striker and his two-gun volley forms the base of their attacks, while simultaneously allowing Kaiser the freedom to score goals by himself as the second striker. Hiyori gets big eyes as he calls it awesome, continuing by saying that now that Kaiser isn't solely passing to Ness, their opponents are having a more challenging time tracking his movements. On top of that, with Isagi's two-gun volley and Kaiser's Kaiser impact, they have two different nuclear weapons that they can destroy them with, saying that the destruction those two create individually is finally starting to resonate with each other. After that, we get this amazing panel with Isagi and Kaiser being almost side by side, and Isagi getting the ball from a pass by Corona. After that, we can see everyone's reaction to this, and Noah has a stone face as always. However, the text says that despite all the expectations and chaos, only one was calm, quiet, and yet still fired up. It's none other than the mysterious player Kiora Jin, who's patiently waiting for his moment to strike as he's starting to define the borderline moment to mark his impact on the game. We then see his eyes, which are looking more determined than ever. After that, we see the most mysterious player in Blue Lock, Kiora Jin. However, that's not all as we finally get an insight into his life. The text says that Kiora Jin is always destined to stand at the boundary line. The first boundary was when Kiora was in his mother's womb. His mother suffered a serious illness and was told by the doctors that her survival rate after giving birth was 50%. However, despite knowing that Kiora was able to draw the change of life and was born into this world strongly, after that, we fast forward a bit, and we get to know that Kiora has two siblings. He got caught between a short-tempered older brother and a rowdy younger brother, and because of that, the Kiora household was constantly embroiled in siblings' quarrels. But even then, as small as a child, Kiora thought about which side, or rather which brother would be more advantageous for him, thinking that whichever side he allies himself with will win, and that his presence determines the victor, which was Kiora's own way of fighting and way of life. And even in Blue Lock, this nature bears its fangs as Kiora survives the boundaries of battle and finds his way to this point. But right now, his destiny comes around again. It's his first and last opportunity to participate. He looks at both Isagi and Kaiser and wonders which side he should take to survive. This wasn't an easy decision either, as this choice would be dead or life for him. After that, we leave him and get to both Kaiser and Isagi, who's going crazy on the pitch. Isagi is fully locked in, and as he's running, he thinks that the field is completely revolving around him. He says that all of the movements of his allies are centered on Isagi, and even the enemy's vigilance is at its max. However, it isn't just Isagi who's using that to his advantage, as Kaiser is starting to aim for the goal on his own, and has now abandoned the cooperation with Ness he had been using until now. And the most shocking part was that he even was ready to pass to Blue Lock members for the sake of his own goal. Isagi thinks that it's a wise decision to ride on the changed Kaiser for his evaluation like Raichi did, and because of that, Isagi is a bit afraid as he says that the Emperor is trying to invade his stronghold using that psychology. He clenches his teeth and says, not bad, but still determined to absolutely crush him. Because Isagi knows that if he scores, then Kaiser's evaluation will plummet. He looks over at Kaiser and tells him to do it, and to see if Kaiser's awakening, or Isagi's monarchy, will win this game. After that, Isagi passes the ball over to our favorite Shark Boy, who traps it flawlessly. However, Tokimitsu comes in his way right away. He tries to block off Kurona and says that he won't let him and Isagi do that combo again. Kurona tells him to get out of the way and tries to get free, calling him the meatball boss for some weird reason. However, Kurona will face more trouble, as it isn't just Tokimitsu who has his eyes set on stopping Kurona. Nanase also comes and joins the party. He takes advantage of the fact that Tokimitsu is holding down Kurona to come and sweep away the ball, calling it an opportunistic press. We can clearly see that Kurona got mad at this, while Tokimitsu is mad that Nanase came in and took away his credit. Now that Nanase has the ball, he wants to get out of there right away, but as he turns around, he sees that Kaiser is approaching in full force against him. Nanase freezes for a second, and Kaiser uses that to steal the ball from him. Isagi, who watched from the sidelines, finally understands what is going on. He says that Kaiser isn't directly targeting him, but instead aiming at the flaws in others through Isagi. It really shouldn't be this confusing in a football series, but we move on. Isagi thinks that if what he thinks is true, then Kaiser's next target will be Kunigami. And Isagi turns out to be spot on, as Kaiser asks Kunigami, or Orange as he calls him. Kunigami doesn't really understand what is going on, but he sees that he's getting a pass towards himself. He's anything but happy because of this, but still passes the ball back to Kaiser. After that, Isagi calls it clever, as he thinks that Kunigami can't move freely now because he's broken with Shido, and by using that, Kaiser is forcing a post-play 1-2 with Kunigami. Accurately understanding the situation of this team, and using that to manipulate of other players' psychology, Kaiser is willing to abandon everything and change for the sake of his own results. Isagi thinks that Kaiser for sure is like him, and that he is a world-type egoist instead of a self-type egoist. Suddenly in the game, as Kaiser is running with the ball, he gets into some trouble as both Karasu and Rin go to stop him. Rin even says that he is going to kill him. All three of them collide with each other, and the ball goes up into the sky and falls into the hands of the ultra-sadist himself, Hiyori. He traps it and says to Kaiser that his luck has descended. Right after getting the ball, Hiyori wants to give it away, so he passes toward Isagi and tells him to resonate. The ball goes to Isagi, but in the last second, he decides to step away from it, which shocks everyone. However, it wasn't for nothing, as the ball instead rolled over to Kurona, who, alongside Isagi and Hiyori, created the ultimate triangle. After Kurona has gotten the ball, he passes it over to Isagi to finally finish it off. Isagi looks at the ball, which is slowly approaching, and thinks that he's won as he's going to score his second goal, but that's not really the case as Charles instead comes in his way and stops the ball from ever reaching Isagi. Charles says that it's the imp's super arrival. He looks into Isagi's eyes and asks if he is surprised or even annoyed. We can definitely see that Isagi is annoyed after that, as he wonders if Charles wasn't super unmotivated just a minute ago, and wonders what happened. The ball goes high up into the sky, but it lands in the hands of a bastard Munchen player. That player is none other than Ness, who tells Kaiser that it isn't over yet, as Ness is here and by his side. Ness's eyes are beginning to fire up as he follows the ball closely and is ready to fire off an amazing pass. Kaiser, Isagi, and Kiora, all three of them, look over to Ness and wonder what is going to happen next. The ball is approaching Ness, and everyone has their eyes on him. Ness thinks back to Kaiser's training and his new weapon. He knows that he has to pass to Kaiser in a position where he can shoot. He says it over and over again to really get it into his brain. After that, he thinks that assisting Kaiser's new weapon is his role and no one else's, and after that, he fires off his pass toward Kaiser. The pass goes past both Nanas and Karasu, who are unable to stop it. Kaiser's eyes are glowing like never before as he sees the ball coming closer to him. But he says, "You mutt," which basically means dog. The ball is almost right by Kaiser, but as he looks ahead of himself, he sees a ton of players, and because of that, he thinks that he doesn't have a single chance to shoot it right there, so he instead lets the ball continue to roll, ignoring Ness's amazing pass. Ness sees this and is in total shock, as he can't understand what happened and why Kaiser decided to ignore the pass. After that, we see both Isagi and Kaiser, who, in sync, look behind them and watch who the ball falls to. And look at that, the ball falls to the most mysterious player on the pitch, which is of course Kiora Jin, who, I must say, traps it flawlessly. Just look at that trap, it looks so cool. Anyway, as Kiora gets the ball, he says that he's got it. After that, we see Hiyori, who's a bit shocked that Kiora has the ball. Charles is just annoyed and a bit tired of this game, I think. However, Reichi is super hyped over this. However, after that, we see Isagi, who has his pieces flying all over the place, as an unexpected ball holder has now come into play, and he must adapt it to his puzzle. He sees that because of this, the enemy formation is in chaos due to the continuous attacks, and thinks that this is the moment to go for it. He steps on the ground determined, and we can see that he's absolutely locking in right now, as his eyes have turned into total darkness, while his piece can't keep up with his thinking. As he continues to run, he thinks that he needs to call for the pass from Kiora. Kaiser sees this, and is determined not to let this happen, and he is looking to steal the pass himself, as it's his survival instinct. So instead of running up on the field, he runs back towards Kiora. When he arrives, he makes a turn around him, letting him know that he's there, which we can see confuses Kiora a bit, as he doesn't know what to do. Anyway, now that Kaiser is in Kiora's vision, he starts running up on the field again, and says that the element he needs is his constraint energy, which only he can breathe in. He then admits that he is a piece of shit, and that he will keep throwing himself into constraint as many times as it takes until death. Tokimitsu is approaching Kiora at a rapid speed, which makes it even more stressful for Kiora as he will soon have to send out his pass. As Kaiser continues on his path, he says that the field is the greatest thing in the world and that he must emerge from its absurd reality, and he can only do that by breaking through the crowd in front of him. He has to dive right into his dense constraint by breaking free and charge towards his constraint, which is exactly what he does, as we can see him getting through the PXG players with ease. We see him sneaking in between Nanas and Karasu like they were just out of thin air. But it isn't only Kaiser who is trying to break free, as Isagi has the same idea, and knows that to get the pass, he has to be in the perfect spot, so he gets past one of the PXG players and runs as fast as he possibly can. Both Isagi and Kaiser are running at full speed and are awaiting the pass. They look absolutely furious as they tell Kiora to pass the ball and to choose them. After that, Kiora finally spots the perfect spot to pass, and we can see how fired up he looks. Just look at him, even his hair changed color. But anyway, Tokimitsu tries his best to block the pass, but it's too late as Kiora has found the boundary line as he calls it, and passes the ball. However, something unexpected happens as the ball goes past Kaiser and sees that the ball is going toward Isagi, and he can't do anything but just watch. Isagi, on the other hand, is pleased as he says that it's coming. A high-speed ground trajectory that surpasses Kaiser. He knows that with this pass, he will finally beat Kaiser for good and take over the Bastard Munchen team, which will lead to Kaiser ultimately falling into darkness. But suddenly he comes back to reality as he notices something weird with the ball, as out of nowhere it stops going forward and instead goes backward. Isagi can't believe his eyes as he understands that the ball had a backspin to it and sees how the ball slowly goes back towards Kaiser. Kaiser manages to break free from Karasu's defense and is rushing towards the ball. Kiora, who can't take his eyes away, tells Kaiser to get it and to score. Kaiser is honestly looking demonic as he has some sort of aura coming off his face as he says that he did it. He stole it from Isagi. But the twists and turns aren't done just yet, as Kaiser will face more trouble as both Charles and Rin are going at full speed toward the ball. Charles says to Rin that if he's feeling down, then here's a thorny rose, even calling him brother. which I know Rin isn't liking, as he has enough brother issues as it is. Rin tells Charles that he won't let him take it, and that he will stop him. Just reminding you guys that these guys are on the same team. But whatever, even though Kaiser is facing major trouble with both Charles and Rin, he realizes something as he sees that the ball has stopped exactly how it was in practice, and knows that this is the perfect chance for him to score as everything is aligned. He gets close to the ball and says that the last thing that will come down to is luck. After that, we can see him loading up an insane shot as he is looking absolutely crazy, and he even has the luck puzzle piece beside him like Isagi had in the U20 game. Anyway, Kaiser gets ready to fire his shot, but sadly we don't see any more of that right now, as this is where it ends. Anyway, the next panel is crazy because we see Kaiser making contact with the ball and getting ready to fire off a hell of a shot. And if that wasn't cool enough, then his face is determined so that it almost looks scary. In the next panel, he finally fires off the long-awaited shot, his Kaiser Impact Magnus. Both Rin and Charles didn't see this coming, as they probably expect just his normal insane Kaiser impact, so they had no way of stopping this ball. In the chapter before, I was scared that Isagi was going to take the ball when Kaiser finally shot it. However, with the angle that the ball is in now, it's extremely unlikely for that to happen. By the way, just a side note, but I'm amazed at how the mangaka constantly comes up with new ways to make the manga look absolutely stunning. Just look at the target circle where Kaiser shot the ball. I don't think we have ever seen anything like this, but it should definitely come back because it looks so cool. The ball is going right by Isagi's head. Raichi is angry as he wonders what it is that Kaiser is doing, as this once again looks like a failed shot. Tokumitsu as well can't really understand how Kaiser would make another miss kick. However, as Isagi is closely analyzing it, he sees that this one is different. He says that since the ball stopped for a split second, he cleanly struck the ball the way he wanted to. He looks at the ball and sees that wind is beginning to emerge around it, and he says that the amount of spin he generated on the ball, he managed to even make the air his ally, which just sounds so incredibly cool, making the literal air come on his side. And once again, this panel is out of this world, and I can see that the break last week was definitely necessary because this is just wild. After that, we see Ness, who is intensely looking at the ball. He tells it to just bend already, as he knows that if Kaiser misses another shot, then it's probably bye-bye for him. But just then, as Ness told it to bend, it actually bended, going around Isagi perfectly. After that, we see some sort of hologram or silhouette of Kaiser from when he was younger, as he tells the ball to go. After that, we get into a short flashback, and we see Kaiser attempting some kick-ups, but ending up failing, and this makes him extremely mad and kicks the ball into the wall, which funny enough ends up landing right back in his face and making him fall to the floor. This only makes the young Kaiser more furious, as he instead just kicks away the ball and starts to leave. However, there's no way that he could just turn his back on his precious football, so he quickly runs back to it. He finds it and looks at it with sad eyes before he lays on the grass and takes the ball close to his chest. After that, he goes home and we get into another extremely tragic panel, as we see his father literally stomping on Kaiser, who is lying helplessly on the floor. He looks back up, and we can see that his eyes are just filled with eternal sadness, as this is his regular day-to-day. However, as he is getting stomped on, he looks at his precious football. After that, when the night comes around, and his father has probably gotten tired of stomping Kaiser, Kaiser takes his ball and holds it close to his heart. He calls the ball a piece of trash, and says that someday they will get out of this shithole and finally become free. And as soon as they are free, they will then earn a lot of money, eat tons of good food, and finally after all of these hard years become human for the first time ever. But why stop there, as he says that if they are super lucky, then they will also become loved. Kaiser has bruises all over his body as he takes his hand towards the sky and says that he wants to be loved. After that, we leave him and go back into the match, where we see Kaiser's outstanding shot, which is growing closer and closer to the goal. The goalkeeper tries his best, but the ball ends up going right into the net. The spectators are amazed as they jump out of their seats and celebrates Kaiser's spectacular goal. After that, we see Isagi, who has an immense aura around him with what looks like to be Kaiser's flower petals and wines. Anyway, Isagi felt the power of Kaiser's immense goal as he calls Kaiser a real superstar. While his eyes turn into darkness, however, that are typically a good sign in the Blue Lock series. Anyway, Kaiser, who's finally gotten his goal after getting run over by Isagi time and time again. He screams out of excitement and pure happiness, I think. After that, just like in the flashback, he takes his hand up towards the sky while he has tons of flower petals falling down on him. And this goal celebration is just amazing. It legit looks like he's aiming to grab hold of the sky or heavens. And I think that it's a clear sign that he isn't stopping anytime soon, as he gave Bastard Munchen their second goal of the match, and also the lead. The commentators screamed that it was a super golazo. After that, They say that despite struggling earlier in the match with a single strike and with the entire football world tuned into this match, Michael Kaiser shows why he's considered one of the best strikers of his generation. And then we see Kaiser, who makes his awesome goal celebration by lifting his hand towards the sky. Nanas can't believe his eyes and wonders what that shot's trajectory was. Karasu, who's also in shock, realizes that it was what Kaiser was going for the entire time. And then we also see Tokimitsu, who's honestly a bit afraid as he says that it's impossible and that there's no way to stop a shot like that. Isagi is looking at Kaiser and his eyes are filled with total darkness as he thinks that Kaiser is an emperor who's willing to sacrifice everything for his evolution. After that, we have Charles, who says damn and also calls him a show-off. Hiyori, on the other hand, goes straight to Kiora and asks him why he passed to Kaiser. Kiora is a bit taken off guard and says that there was no specific reason, looking back at Hiyori and saying that both of them were going to score regardless and that he could have easily passed to Isagi instead of Kaiser. However, Kiora admits that he tends to ally himself with the underdog, which shocks Hiyori as it was not what he expected to hear. Kiora continues and says that if the underdog wins, then it's all because of him. He starts to walk away while saying that with his borderline decisions, he can constantly shift the scales of power to whomever he chooses. Hiyori doesn't really know what to say and just calls him a weirdo while Isagi asks him to wait up. Kiora stops, and Isagi asks him if this means that he will side with Kaiser from now on. However, Kiora says that it's not the case at all, saying that this time it just so happened that his interests aligned with his, but next time, who knows? Starting to walk off once again while saying that until the last minute, not even the gods know who he chooses to side with, which, I'm not going to lie, sounds extremely cool. Isagi says that he will remember that, and Kiora just says alright, showing that he really doesn't give a shit about it. But with that, Isagi now understands Kyorijin's philosophy. He thinks to himself, and says that there's no doubt that Kiora played a massive role in Kaiser's goal, but it all started when Kaiser changed his approach, thinking back and saying that he abandoned his obsession with Isagi, and by passing to Reichi instead of Ness, he showed that he was willing to work with everyone else, even going as far as forcing Kunigami to work with him, and then, for the finishing touch, got Kiora to deliver the crucial final pass. By throwing away Kaiser's pride and logically pursuing results, he propelled himself into his top performance, finally coming to the conclusion that without a doubt, Kaiser's 100% a holistic ego type. However, that kind of superficial analysis wasn't enough for Isagi to stop him, and he thinks that there's something that he still doesn't understand about Kaiser and his overall mindset. Thinking that to defeat Kaiser, he needs to gather more information. After that, we see Kaiser, who's walking, and Ness behind him. Ness stops him and calls out his name, and Kaiser looks at Ness. Ness is looking extremely happy, as he has stars in his eyes, as he says that Kaiser is incredible, saying that even though Ness couldn't deliver that final pass, he was still able to shoot it as he did during training. But not only that, as this shot was even greater than any of the shots he scored during training, and the way everything fell in place, it was almost as if God was on Kaiser's side. Kaiser just glanced at Ness with an uninterested look. But Ness continues as he says that his work ethic and perseverance helped turn an impossibility into a reality, saying that Kaiser truly is a player destined to become the best striker in the world. As he's saying, he looks so proud and happy for Kaiser, but after that, Kaiser speaks up. Kaiser thanks Ness, as it was thanks to him that Kaiser was able to come this far. Thanks to the freedom Ness's football gave him, he has become stronger since joining Bastard Munchen. These words mean so much to Ness that he starts to cry, but as he's crying, Kaiser says that he doesn't need Ness anymore. As Ness hears that, his expression changes drastically. Kaiser says that this match showed him what he needs to become even stronger, and says that he doesn't need the freedom that Ness brings anymore. Ness looks crushed as his tears keep on flowing down his face. Kaiser tells Ness not to follow him anymore and to find a new king instead. While walking away, he says that he thrives best in discomfort, and just like that, he leaves Ness. Isagi was able to overhear their conversation and hear what Kaiser said about discomfort. His pieces start to fly around again as he says freedom or restriction before saying that he gets it now, saying that depending on the environment, people's performance can change, regardless of whether we want it or not. He says that there are people like him who are freedom ego types, people who thrive in conditions where they are allowed the freedom to change their winning formulas. Conversely, there's the restrictive ego type. Those are people who thrive in conditions with clearly defined rules and objectives and faithfully accomplish those objectives to achieve success, or those who thrive in conditions where they rebel against those rules and objectives. saying that if they combine these two ego types with the individualistic and holistic ego types, then they can categorize each egoist into one of these 4 ego types. Here we have Isagi and Hiyori, who are both holistic and freedom ego types, while Shido and Bachira are individualistic freedom ego types. Kunigami is an individualistic and restrictive ego type, while Kaiser is a holistic and restrictive ego type. Isagi can't believe what he's just figured out, as he says that the quality of his analysis is increasing, and with this, he can understand more about each egoist. If he's then able to pinpoint Kaiser's weaknesses with this, then he will be able to, before he can finish his sentence. Kaiser calls out his name. Kaiser takes his hand through his hair and says that he's on fire right now, and that this is the most excited he's ever been, saying that thanks to Isagi, he's been reborn or metamorphized, and because of that, he says that the two of them should settle this once and for all. With this, they should determine who's the king of their generation and see which one devours who. Isagi isn't one to back down, so he looks straight into Kaiser's eyes and tells him to bring it on. Both of them have an immense aura around them, and their eyes are literally burning with excitement. Isagi thinks that if he can crush Kaiser, then he will be able to grab the golden ticket that will lead him to become the world's best player, and after that, they both leave. However, we can see Rin, who was watching them closely. We get a close-up of his face as he just says kill after looking at Kaiser and Isagi. After that, we see the whole Ubers spectating the match closely. Sendo scratches his head and says that it was an amazing goal and that it was expected by the Emperor, but even then, Sendo is determined not to lose to Kaiser. However, this feels more like a one-sided rivalry, if I'm honest. Anyway, after that, Ryu says that even Kaiser's pose after scoring the goal was flashy, and that it was one of the favorites to win the Super Flashy Protagonist Award, basically just Ryu being Ryu. We then see Nico, who says that now that Kaiser has stopped obsessing over Isagi, Bastard Munchen's gotten much more versatile on the attack. Aiku adds in by saying that they are a hell of a lot stronger than when they faced each other, and says that even though Bastard Munchen is evolving, behind him we have Lorenzo, who's almost drowning himself in popcorn, as he says that Kaiser's goal just now was probably worth around $500 million. Lorenzo's popcorn is going all over the floor, so Sendo and Ryu try to get him to stop. While those three are arguing, Baru is sitting calmly and wonders to himself what Isagi's next move will be. After that, we leave Uber's squad and instead go back to the match and to the Masters. Loki asks Noah if this is the evolution that he wants Kaiser to achieve. Noah says that it was, but asks if it's really okay for Loki to be interested in his players while his own players are falling apart. Loki has a smirk on himself as he says that it's fine if they lose, as he doesn't care about the result. However, he tells Noah to rest assured, as his prized impish trickster will undergo another evolution soon enough, which I'm dying to see, as Charles hasn't been able to do that much recently. After that, we see Shido, who calls Kaiser's goal a fantastic explosion. He asks PXG what they are going to do after this incredible goal. However, Shido is getting on Karasu's nerves a bit, as he tells him to shut up and calm down, and tells him that first, they have to peel that musclehead gorilla off Shido. Once they do that, they should be able to create more chances. He turns to Zantetsu and asks if he's good to go, and Zantetsu, as dumb as he is, responses with full course, and it doesn't take long for Karasu to say that it's of course, and calls him a dimwit. On the other side, we have Tokimitsu, who is freaking out, saying that this is really bad, and that they are gonna lost at this rate over and over again. Nanase agrees and says that they need to switch things up before going to Rin and asking what the plan is. However, Rin is in a world of his own as he tells Nanase to shut up and that he is thinking. He thinks that Bastard's momentum just won't stop, and for Kaiser not to be outdone by Isagi's evolution, he evolved as well. As a result, those two brought a new style to Bastard Munchen. However, Rin knows one thing for certain, which is that their chemical reaction is still incomplete. He looks over at them and thinks that if he's going to destroy them, then it has to be right now. And with that, the game starts. Rin starts with the ball, but passes Nanase and tells him to follow him while calling him a bumpkin, who is an unsophisticated or socially awkward person from the countryside, and Nanase just agrees with it. With the ball at Nanase's feet, he is thinking about what to do. He thinks that the first thing he has to do is build up and make a link with Rin. However, something that Nanase didn't account for was that Isagi would be rushing towards him right as the match started. Nanase is caught off guard by this play and tries to defend the ball with his life, saying that he could have never predicted a frontal assault and calling it a demon press right from the start. However, it isn't only Isagi who is going on the attack, as out of nowhere Hiyori also comes by. He tells Nanase that he is too slow and that they will be taking it. With no other choice, Nanase can only pass the ball back to Rin. However, as he passes the ball and sees it going towards Rin, someone interferes. It's none other than the Emperor Kaiser, who comes in between the ball and takes it for himself. Nanase is left speechless as he can't figure out how the hell Kaiser got the read on that, and Rin isn't so pleased either as Kaiser starts to sprint up on their field. Rin starts to wonder if Isagi and Kaiser are actually working together. However, as he looks over to Isagi and Hiyori, he overhears them saying that Kaiser stole the ball and that they need to get it back. This clears things for Rin, as he knows that he was wrong and that the two of them aren't working together. Instead of saying that Isagi and Kaiser aren't even considering working together, compare them to a dragon and a tiger, as those two are battling each other for supremacy, and by clashing their top performances against each other, those two are dominating them to the point of being obliterated. Zantetsu says that there's no end to Bastard's attacks. Karasu screams at everyone to get back and to not worry about getting carded and just stop them, while Tokimitsu is just saying that it's bad over and over again, kind of starting to get on my nerves if I'm honest. After them, we have Rin, who is a bit behind. He thinks to himself that he came here to destroy Isagi, and that ever since he lost to him in the U20 match, he has devoted all his time and energy to getting ready for this match, so that he could finally defeat him. However, in this match, Rin realizes that he's nowhere near attaining that, saying that the state he was in during the U20 match, that level of concentration, and that level of bloodlust, if he can be able to get to the point where he can enter that berserker state at will, he knows for certain that he can destroy Isagi and even Sei. But still, at this rate, he's just going to lose to Isagi once again. He starts to wonder if it's because of Isagi's rate of growth is way faster than his, and says that right now he can't see a path to victory. While this is happening, we see that Zantetsu and Karasu were able to steal the ball from Kaiser. Zantetsu shot away the ball, which landed in the hands of Hiyori, who later passed it to Isagi. Rin sees this, and says that his feelings for revenge are getting crushed, and his obsession is somehow being obliterated by Isagi. The screen goes black and he says that everything is soon going to be destroyed. But then, something happens. Rin starts to transform, and a strange aura with darkness and eyes starts to go around him. Rin has finally entered the same state that he was in the U20 match, and has gotten close to Isagi, and says that this is it, saying that he needed the pressure that Isagi emanate to enter this state. And then Isagi looks at him, and says that he saw him coming from a mile away. And just like that, the duel which we've been most looking forward to is finally here. Isagi versus Rin is finally going to go down, and I've been waiting for this since all the way back in the U20 match. Isagi has the ball, and Rin tries to go for it, but just in time, Isagi drags the ball back. But Rin isn't stopping his attacks, as he once again goes for the ball. But Isagi handles this situation flawlessly, as he passes the ball to his left foot to keep it. We can clearly see in Rin's face that he's beginning to get furious because of this. Rin tries to take his hand and get Isagi off balance, but Isagi isn't having any of it as he just slaps away Rin's hand. However, there's more trouble coming Isagi's way, as behind him, the left wing of PXG Nanase Nijiro comes to help Rin. Isagi is able to quickly see this, and looks for options that he can use. Just then, he spots Corona running on his right side and makes a smooth pass to him. Corona gets the ball and tells Isagi to do a 1-2 with him, so Isagi escapes from Nanase and Rin and runs up while they are caught off guard by Corona. After Isagi is free, Corona passes Isagi, and Isagi gets the ball flawlessly, which we can clearly see really upset both Rin and Nanase. As Isagi has the ball, he says bye-bye to Rin and thinks to himself that he's now broken through completely and that he has a complete grasp of Rin's movements, further explaining that right now the whole field revolves around Isagi, saying that since Kunigami is keeping Shido in check, the Karasu, Zantetsu, and Shido combo is pretty much useless, and even though Rin remains a dangerous threat, Isagi is good if he can bypass him and his two lackeys, like he just did now, talking about Nanase and Tokimitsu. But that's not all, because as long as he keeps an eye out for Charles and his unpredictable movements, he can destroy PXG's attacks. However, this also means that the only player who even has a chance of scoring a goal right now is none other than Kaiser, who is seen running behind Isagi. Isagi thinks that even though it's highly unlikely that he can recreate that super goal, since he's constantly positioning himself in a way that he can score at any moment, to deal with Isagi and Kaiser simultaneously, their opponent has no choice, and if they go all in to stop Isagi, then Kaiser will score. Conversely, if they go all in to stop Kaiser, Isagi will be the one to score, concluding that right now Bastard Munchen is burning the brightest and evolving the strongest, which we can clearly see as both Kaiser and Isagi are fully immersed in this game right now. After that, we switch over to Rin, who says that it's not over yet, and calls Isagi an asshole while almost being fully immersed by his rage and darkness aura, not to mention how mad he looks. Rin thinks that he doesn't deny that he became stronger playing in the Neo-Egoist League, but that's only from a technique standpoint. What he truly was lacking, and what he desperately needed, was the intense mental pressure, which for him is a player that brings him torment and suffering. As he says, we see his aura getting bigger and bigger, almost covering all of Rin, as well as two silhouettes of Sei and Isagi behind him. Continuing with what he said before, and saying that he needed someone stronger than everybody, and one who rightly stands in his way, which he calls the ultimate egoist. Once again, his aura is just getting more and more intense, as he says that the urge to destroy that sort of egoist is the trigger to enter this state. And lastly, while almost being consumed by total rage and darkness, he says that this is it. This is the feeling he's been looking for. After that, we once again switch over to Isagi, who has puzzle pieces flying around him like crazy, as he says that this is his game and his only, saying that if he can't succeed in this situation, and if he can't finish first, then all of this hard work would have been for nothing. He tells himself to think, and says that there's got to be a way to win, while simultaneously shutting down Kaiser, saying that for the top performance that Kaiser is currently seeking, he has to find an action that destroys it, which is just what Isagi has found as he finally makes his move. Isagi decided to move towards Kaiser, which caught everyone off guard. Kaiser can't believe his eyes and is extremely confused. The same could be said for Karasu, Hiyori, and Nanase, who are just watching this go down. Isagi thinks that since Kaiser loves playing in Isagi's shadow so much and taking advantage of any blind spots that may occur due to Isagi's presence, he's now instead made a run that forces Kaiser into the spotlight. And we can see on Kaiser's face that this was a smart move by Isagi, as Kaiser is furious at Isagi. After that, Isagi, Hiyori, and Corona start trading passes, while Isagi admits that, from an individual skills standpoint, Kaiser outclasses him, but what he has over Kaiser is the support he gets from Corona and Hiyori. Since Kaiser is all alone inside this cage Isagi created, he is now powerless. They trade glances for a moment, as Isagi asks Kaiser to show him the answer Kaiser is able to.
Thanks for watching our video. We will show you the rest in our next video.